Well, good morning, everyone. Frank Fear here. Unfortunately, Greg Crist can't be with us today. Mike Fox will be joining us soon, I'm sure. And it's the last rodeo, everyone. We wait for the season to begin, think about the team, sideways, upside down, you name it, right side up, and then the season goes so quickly, and this is it. And boy, I'll tell you, couldn't wait for a better game than hopefully we'll have today. Certainly, it's a high profile game. Many of you may not know, others may know that Texas Tech doesn't have to win this game to get into the Big Ten championship. That was assured last night when Arizona went into Tempe and took care of Arizona State, really with a very strong second half. And so it'll be BYU and Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Tech won that game earlier in the season, the first game during the regular season. And so it'll be interesting to see if BYU can come back and take the championship. And of course, for all the Arizona State fans having won it last year, they were disappointed. But I'll tell you what, Arizona, you got to give the Wildcats a lot of credit for bouncing back from some seriously down seasons to do very well this year. And so congratulations to Arizona for winning. And, the way you have to look at today's game, and so many people have, is that on the one hand, Texas Tech is the overwhelming favorite. Everywhere you look, certainly the line is 23.5. Started at, I think it opened at 20.5 and then built up over the week. But if you look at it from another perspective, these are the games that the opposition basically lives for. And when you think about a Rich Rod coach team, this is where you hope that you'll see the grit that is essentially fundamental to everything that he's done through his entire career. And certainly the first time he was at West Virginia, and definitely over the last few weeks since the TCU game, we've seen a very different Mountaineer team. But as we all talked about it, we certainly did on our show leading up to the season, it was a tall task for Rich Rod because he came in late, really didn't have a chance to influence the recruiting much at all, but dived into the portal with gusto. So many new players, over 80 players coming in, sifting and sorting process, and so many injuries along the way. And for those of us who may be disappointed with the overall season record, my perspective on it is that, it is what it is. And the good thing is that things are much better now than they were just a few weeks ago. Many of us, and certainly I'm sure some of you out there, were without hope, but we have hope now. And, that TCU game really was the difference, played very well in that game, and then several wins followed. And should have won the Arizona State game. No question about that. We were in a position to win that at Tempe, which is a very difficult place for other teams to come in and win, particularly teams from the East that have to travel out. Not only because of the travel, but also because of the temperature out there. We were lucky when we played a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't so bad on the temperature. It wasn't bad at all on the temperature side. And Mountaineers looked awfully good, but they overplayed the run, and we were stopped several times by the goal line. But this Texas Tech team, if you look at it from a nonpartisan perspective, I think most reasonable people would conclude that that this is the best team that we've faced all year long. And we have Jersey Earl. Well said, Frank. I'm not sure what I said, but thank you very much. Jersey Ear. Did I say Jersey Earl? Sorry for that. As you get older, sometimes you can't see the screen as well as you'd like to be able to see it. But thanks for being here, Jersey. We appreciate that. But if you look at all the stats, this Texas Tech team is loaded. And I've just got a couple of stats that I'll bring out to us. Obviously, I said 23.5 favorite. But if you look at the national stats, which we did, and Mike's going to join us in a second here, they're number 3 in the country in terms of points scored, 43 points a game. Number 4 in terms of points allowed at 12.3 points a game. That renders a 31 point game per average differential. So they're beating teams on an average of 31 points. And so and you look at that team, it's deep, particularly in terms of the skill position. You've got 2 deep at quarterback, you've got 2 deep at running back, you've got 2 deep at wide receiver, and the defense is really, really tough. In fact, I mentioned the stats from last on Wednesday on our regular show. Defense: 33 sacks, 12 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, and they're really, really tough. Mike, if you're ready to come in, I'm going to bring you in right now. Let's see if your audio and video are all set. I pushed the button, so you should be coming in. Let me see. Try this. For some reason. Okay, let's try this one. There we go.
Hey, Frank, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good to see you. Sorry, I had the wrong button pushed, and good to see you. You're looking good. And your thoughts about this game?
Difficulties. Yeah, sorry, I had some difficulty signing in. So
that's what happens with StreamYard.
I think it's gonna. Yeah. I think it's gonna be. Let's just look at it this way. The way I see today's game. We know they're the number 5 team in the country. This is our last game for the season. We've showed some promise throughout the year, and let's just have a very good competitive game so we have something we can build on. And there's a chance we could beat this team. We just need to have some. They've progressed decently throughout the season. I know it's not as many wins as we would like, but we've shown that we can hang in there against ranked opponents. So let's just have a good solid game, and so we can think about the future of next year with what we got and what we're gonna get, and with the coaching staff. And like I said, they're the number 5 team in the country. They got a lot of good talent, and we got a lot of good talent that needs to just keep getting a lot better. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, it's really good. And one of our regular viewers who's really insightful, WVU year 13, fan 13. Again, my eyes here. Anyway, the first 12 minutes, I think, will decide the game. If we go down 14-0, it'll be hard to recover from. However, if we can jump on top, 14-3, something like that, similar, it might be able to make it close. And I agree. And I mentioned this on Wednesday, and I think it bears repeating. And many of you may have seen this on Rich Rod's weekly presser. He was asked a question by John Antonic. Basically, is this the end of this season or the beginning of next? And he was very quick to say, "Hey, it's this season, not the next." And so what you're saying is it is a great opportunity here. You played the game. No matter what the record is, you're playing against a top 5 team that's already primed, ready to go to the Big 12 championship game. And so as a consequence, you have an opportunity to really make a mark and not only close the season off, with a bang, but also make a statement as you prepare for the next season. So I agree with you completely. And I think they'll come out strong.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think these guys are all athletes. The coaches are all athletes to some degree, and they're coaches. And you got pride, and you got to look in the mirror the next day. So I think that they could come out with a bowl game attitude, because this is their bowl game for the year. They get to play the number 5 team in the country. They get to see how they stack up. They have to play them in the Big 12 every year, basically almost. So it's a building plot process, and definitely good way to finish the year with a victory, the way I see it. So I think that we can have a surprise victory. I think we could maybe West Virginia wins 31-28. I think they do. So, but they've shown improvement, and especially they we kind of get after some people when they are ranked. So maybe it's a incentive. So I know it'd be an incentive if I was on that team. So
Yeah,
and I
well
know
spoken.
that these boys and coaches, want to feel the taste of win, because this is the last time you get to win or have a chance to win until next season. So
Absolutely. And I think the concept of a bowl game makes a lot of sense. If you look at some of the things that would have to happen, and I was thinking about this, obviously, preparing for today, what would happen? What would WVU need to do? Obviously, run the ball is extremely important. Hubbard's out of the game. Sincere Bowers probably will be getting the primary call at running back. So it puts a lot of pressure on the offensive line to be able to create holes. And Rich Rod said it very well. The defensive line is one of Tech's strengths among many. But the bottom line is you've got to be able to run the ball. And on the defensive side, got to put pressure on Baron Morton at quarterback. He's very good, 17 touchdowns this year, only 4 interceptions, 70% completion rate, and over 2,100 yards already. So he's seasoned. He's had obviously a lot of experience, but you got to put pressure on him. We're watching the game against Cincinnati against the Ravens the other night, and if you give quarterbacks time, particularly really really good quarterbacks, they're going to kill you. I mean that that from your own experience, and so as a consequence, we've got to put pressure on him. We also have to ball protect. Again, thinking about that Cincinnati-Baltimore game.
Even if you can get them to move off,
Go ahead.
Even if you can disrupt their patterns, you can't let them just drop back and sit on a spot and then pick you to death. You gotta get after them any way you can. Sometimes you gotta just push the pocket. Get him uncomfortable as soon and as fast as possible. I mean, that's just the way that game goes. Your D-backs will be thankful too. The faster you get to the quarterback, less time they have to cover.
So. Yep. And of course, if you're doing a lot of blitzing, that puts you in single coverage, which is really important. But you're right. Any which way, get it done. There's no question about that. The other thing I was going to mention is ball protection. If you watch that Cincinnati-Baltimore game the other night, 5 turnovers doomed the Ravens. And so we've got to protect the ball and also got to cause turnovers. I mean, these are all no-brainers I'm mentioning. Scotty Fox is going to, he's now a sophomore, essentially. So we got to see Scotty Fox have a good game. The wide receivers are going to have to get open. Obviously, that's not going to be an easy task against this defense. If you look at their linebackers and their secondary, they're really good. But your thoughts, additional thoughts in terms of what you think would be necessary, Mike, to spring the upset?
I mean, everything falls back to the basics, especially when everybody's solid across the boards. So obviously stop the run. Put pressure on the passer. They're well balanced. So we really play pretty tough today. So I think we can do it. I think they can put pressure on the quarterback. I think that they can, stop some of the running. And then hopefully we can get. I know our running back is out, but hopefully we can the other guys step up, and as long as there's holes, there should be somebody be able to run in them. So that's how I see that. And the O line's going to have to definitely come together today and keep improving so that they can make holes and protect the quarterback. Because that's tough. Well, when there's you don't got no room, then that's usually an unsuccessful down.
That's right. Some names to look for on the Tech side. At running back, you got Cameron Dickey, a sophomore. He's only 50 yards away from a 1,000-yard season, 6 yards per carry. The thing about this team, they've got they're too deep at least in terms of interchangeable starters. Jacoby Williams backs up Cameron Dickey. He has almost 700 yards. So between the two guys, they have 1,600 yards together. He's a sophomore too. And both of those guys have gotten long touchdown runs. Cameron Dickey, 71 yards. Jacoby Williams, 43 yards. And Williams is 5.8 yards. So each of these guys are 5 yards plus. And then they've got 2,500 yards together collectively out of the wide receivers and tight end. So names to watch for: Caleb Dickinson, he's a senior, wide receiver, 5 touchdowns. Reggie Virgil, a senior, 6 touchdowns. And Coy Eaton, a junior, 4 touchdowns. And they have a terrific field goal kicker. So we hope that won't be the X factor. Stone Harrington, a junior, 85% conversion with respect to field goals, 75% beyond 50 yards, with 58 yards his longest. So, they've been putting a lot of money in their program, as we've talked about, for a long time. And so they're getting a lot of great players. And so the thing that I think, Mike, that we got to, this is not a one-horse football team, so to speak. They've got multiple. So all of the rooms at WVU rooms, whether it be offensive line, defensive backs, they all have to be able to step to the table today to spring that upset.
Well, it's a good day to show not only your coaches, but maybe other coaches what you can do against the number 5 team and at every level on West Virginia's team. So we definitely, it'll be a great test, just like every week's a great test. But this one here is the last game of the year. You want to be able to leave a thumbprint that saying, hey, we're Mountaineers and, we're going to slug it out to the bitter end, no matter how it goes. And that's kind of what I look for from people that play at West Virginia.
Yep. Here's another good thought by Fan 13. Today's game also means, obviously, as we're saying, a start to the next season. And if you think about it, this is a key point. Again, I mentioned he's thoughtful, and so I appreciate bringing it up. There'll be a lot of recruits at the game, and I've seen some traffic on already earlier in the week and today even on Facebook and also X, recruits basically saying, I'm coming to the game. And so that's really important. And let me put something up right here that I think, let me see if I can find it here, that I think is really something that augurs very well for the future. A number of you know that On3, which is a gold standard for recruiting and portal activity, and Rivals are really a recruiting mecca in terms of sites, have combined. And so it's now On3 and Rivals, and that's a powerhouse combination. West Virginia has really been flexing its muscles. Rich Rod and staff have done a tremendous job. Now, as of yesterday, these are the top, according to On3 Rivals, the top 4 teams in terms of 2026 recruiting. Now, this does not include the portal, which hasn't opened yet. This is simply the high school and junior college recruiting for next year. Texas Tech is number 1, 22nd ranked in the country. I'll get to the nil value in a minute. Baylor's number 2, 29th. BYU 3, number 30, and there's West Virginia. Now, there's been a flurry, as fans who are serious have been and noted this, that West Virginia has been signing a lot of players recently. It's up to 33 commits as of yesterday, may even be higher now. And before the flurry of recent signings, WVU, according to On3 and Rivals, was ranked 4th in the Big 12. 9th in the Big 12. Now they're 4th. And you can also see that we moved up 16 slots in the national rankings. We were 48th before the flurry. Now we're 32nd. Houston, which is a program that was almost left for dead. They had a good season this year, turned it around with the new coach, and you can see they're recruiting well. They're number 5th and 34. A couple of things to note there, Mike, is that none of those top 5 Big 12 teams are in the top 12 recruiting rankings. Texas Tech is the highest at 22nd, but you'll also notice the average nil value. And that the discrepancy there is obvious. Now, that doesn't mean that every recruit is getting 112,000. That's essentially the value that On3 and Rivals is assessing to the franchise, so to speak, program-wise. And so West Virginia is the lowest of the 5. On the one hand, you'd say, wow. But on the other hand, think about that in terms of effectiveness. 18.6 average nil value, where Houston, for example, 74,000, and we're ahead of them. We're number 4. So, and the top teams are the names you expect. Notre Dame is number 1, followed by Georgia, Ohio State. I'm not sure these are actually in order, so I shouldn't say that. I think at one point USC was number 1.
Well,
go back and forth. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so basically, okay, that's wonderful. We got a set of numbers that are, I'm not even going to say they're competitive, but they need obviously that pot needs to get a little bit hotter. But that's where some of those conversations we had earlier, that's why we need to, even figure out even harder, give the players more when they come to West Virginia than what they can get at this point. I'm not saying it's chump change, but it's just the end game is it's a money game, and when you got to play the money game, you got to figure out the overall end of someone's career, and that's where when we've had other conversations earlier, we need to figure out how to squeeze a state retirement in there to elevate that. Plus, we need to figure out how and how to elevate the players with the coaching staff and potential alumni that are in the area. There's just so many things West Virginia could do. I mean, I know that this whole thing got thrown in one big platter, but we need to bring more value to the table, and the more value you can bring to the table, the more potential athletes you may get, and and they may get a little less, but they might get a whole lot more in the end. And obviously you need money in the end than when you do in the beginning. I know that's contrary to young people's thinking, but take it as I know, as you sure know too. It's better to have money at the end than in the beginning. But,
yeah, and I agree.
There's a lot of things you can do, and we talked about that from time to time. And they need to get the 2 in it, or we're going to be way last in line. So, and I see you're saying, yeah, we're crawling in there, but obviously the best of the best are going to go to where the most is, and then it's going to filter down from there. But how can we stretch it to give more of a value when they do come to West Virginia? They're going to they're learning their techniques. Can they move on and maybe go to the next level? What type of program do we have there? I mean, and I'm not saying it's not a program in motion. I just we need to offer more. If you're going to give them less, you got to offer more, and it has to be more valuable in different ways. So sometimes it ain't always about all the money, but I mean, I know at that age it's all about all the money. So.
Well, it is, and let me just key off of what let me just key off what Earth Ether is saying to try to put it in perspective in terms of why that value may be a little bit lower, and that is that WVU has 33 recruits. The majority of those are 3 stars, but the current flurry of signing higher, not higher potential necessarily, but in terms of higher assessed players. So, for example, and I mentioned this on Wednesday, but I'll repeat it. I can't remember a time when West Virginia, on an incoming side, had 8 recruits interpreted as elite. And that means that they're not only have a tremendous record in high school, but they also have potential to be able to make a contribution their freshman year and the possibility of playing in the pros. Those 8 players, I'll go down the list, and most of them are offensive linemen or defensive linemen. Kevin Brown, we know from Pennsylvania, offensive line. Camden Gillespie from North Carolina, he's an edge player. LaMarcus Dillard from Maryland, he's an offensive lineman. Sam Hamilton, a tight end from Ohio. Reet Morris, an offensive lineman from New Jersey. Cameron Dwyer from Florida, a linebacker. Camden Goforth from Tennessee, he's a offensive lineman. And Antoine Sharp from Florida, a linebacker. And one of the things that they do too, this site, they also say, okay, what's the average distance from campus? And obviously WVU's gone national because it's about 950 miles. And so unfortunately, there's only, I think, one West Virginian in the class. There may be more. There's a great player at Nitro who decommitted from Florida State that Mickey Plumlee brought up the other night. I think he's an offensive lineman. And West Virginia is recruiting him very hard. But the fact of the matter is, you're absolutely right, Mike. I think we're seeing evidence that that the corner has been turned on this. So I think what you're talking about, I think, is going to happen.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be the boss of the whole thing, but I'm just letting you know. If you don't get something going fast enough, you're going to be at the end of the line instead of somewhere in the middle climbing to the top. So it's like, the sooner the better. Something needs to be put in place.
Absolutely.
Since
correct.
It's a money game, I mean, this story's already been written. So all you got to do is technically look at the NFL, see how they do it. The only difference is you got a gazillion teams in college ranks, but you're going to have to. You're going to have to categorize those teams off probably by, top 35, then the next 35 to go to 70. And then, there's probably a good four categories of 35 teams. And you can potentially utilize those teams as feeder systems to the state schools that are around them. So, something like use it like a minor league in particular. If you got and people can grow up, or somebody might need a position, they can pull them up, and then whatever that money is that they got the one school assigned, and maybe the other guy takes it and assigns it to them, maybe with a little bit more. With the way they're doing it, they're just they're dropping money even on coaches. And then all of a sudden, if they don't work out, then all of a sudden they're, that money's in jeopardy one way or the other, or they get to, reassign it to the other school, kind of like what they do with some of the coaches. So, and this way it's moving contracts and maybe a little bit here, extra here, and a little bit there. Potentially, if somebody needs one, you could really turn this into something pretty gigantic, and I mean, I know it needs to be under control, but I mean, there's a lot of ways of doing this and make it even funner. So it's like, how could they make, what's better than, nothing's better than the NFL draft, but just imagine, 35 top 35 schools, the first 35 having some form of, college wise, and bringing young kids in, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. If you're saying we're getting 3 stars, and we got to have enough training to turn them into 5 stars or greater. And, it comes down to training and fundamentals, and that's the bottom line. And,
yeah, absolutely.
You need to offer more. I'm not just talking about the money. I'm thinking you need to offer more type of services to help perpetuate the type of player you're going to end up with. So if you're going to end up with 3 stars and you can't get to 5 stars because you can't even get to 100-something thousand a pop, then you need to, have something more to offer.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those who watch basketball, we saw something over the Thanksgiving holiday that basically is this next chapter. they had what they called the Players Era Basketball Tournament in Las Vegas. I think they invited 8 teams that played as a team. These weren't all-star teams. And the way it worked out is that the winner of the tournament, which ended up to be University of Michigan, got $1 million that their players then could divide up. It averaged about 150,000 essentially a player. And we've never seen that before, because when these teams would go to tournaments, mid-season tournaments, before the conference season started, the money would go to the university. But in this case, the money went directly. That's why they called it Players Era. That's in basketball. And so I think what that's doing is that's opening the next chapter where the money that's generated, it's not just name, image, and likeness. That you basically, you're out there. You're the ones that are playing the game.
Well,
and so that changes everything.
I mean, let's get for real for a second. Okay, what's it really all about? Where's all the real money being totally generated from? It's the TV contract money, okay? It's not the concession stand out there at the stadium. I'm not saying they're not making money, but it's the TV contract money. That's where you're getting the big bulk part of your money for your school and your institution. So now I think everybody's just trying to say, some of that money needs to be, brought on down to the player. And I agree with some of that. Not just because I was a player, but because I think it's the best thing you can do. I mean, Don't get me wrong. I appreciated my scholarship and the way we had to do, collegiate football during my time. But it would have been nice to make a couple extra bucks along the way if I could have, because times are tough for most players. There's nobody's coming to the school with a big bank account. That's for sure.
That's right.
At least not during my time. But
that's right.
It's the TV contract. That's where the big bulk part of your money is. And somewhere along the way, every school across the nation, you got to ask yourself this question: Am I just a TV contract fulfiller, or do we want our program to get really good? So I mean, that's a real live question that you need to ask yourself as an organization. So everybody gives the we want to be competitive and we want to be good, and maybe some of that's true, but you'll see with what they do in their actions. Are they a TV contract fulfiller, or they really want to get better? I mean, you could definitely see the difference in the NFL. There's some teams, they look like, they're TV contract fulfillers. Well, they got the big money, but they're going to talk the big game, and and they're going to say all the right things, and they got all the right phrases. There's a phrase for everything. But then you can actually look, because we're only talking about 32 teams. You can see that there is some teams that they really want to be better, and they get better. The NFL platform is basically based on parity, which meaning they're trying to keep those games as close to 50-50 as they can. But you can see there's definitely separation with probably a good 6 to 8 teams that want to be a little bit better than most, and they continue to be pretty consistent. So that's kind of where we're at. We're hopefully somewhere along the way we can get into the top 25 and stay there. But if we're in the top, we're the top 50 or 60 team in the country, I don't know that answer because I don't do all those statistics, but we need to get someplace in there so we can start making our moves and get consistent with the direction we're going to go as an organization. I don't want to be a TV contract fulfiller, even though that's what they do. Every one of them fulfill a TV contract, but then it's the money a lot. So I know everyone's trying to curb this thing down to NIL. NIL in the end is just going to be a partial part of the payments to the players. They need to, you're going to need to get a little bit more the way I see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and just go from there, because it's really just one big math problem, Frank. So and it's really not a problem because the blueprint's sitting right over there in the NFL. Just look at what they've done for 32 teams, and I know college is a little bit different, but I mean, if it turns into the money game like it is, and it is a money game, so let's just play the game for what it is, not like, oh, we can only afford this much. Well, kids ain't going to hear that. You got to figure out a way to,
Yeah.
give them more value as they, as we go down. If we can only get 3-star recruits, basically, then that's cool, because we can turn them into 5 stars because we have a program that can do it. I kind of like that approach. So that's where some of that's at, the way I think.
Yep. Yep. Well, we've talked about this before, Mike. Indiana becomes sort of the poster university in terms of a quick turnaround. Again, they won last night. I think the last 2 years against Purdue, which is their primary rival. I mean, they've outscored them like 115-3, something like that. And so the separation with their rival, when it's that significant, and now they've done it faster than anyone ever expected. In fact, many people never expected Indiana to be in the conversation for a national championship, or obviously even a college football playoff spot. They were there last year. It looks like they've got a good chance to be there this year.
Yeah, and last year when they were in it, they kind of, got to that. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think they made it pretty good into it, and then they went into Ohio State, and I think the day was too big for them. But this year it looks like they're going to be on a more competitive ground as far as moving moving into that realm. But I mean, yeah, they definitely came out of nowhere, that's for sure. So, but it can be done.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
Done.
That's exactly the case. That's right. It's David and Goliath with respect to Ohio State. I have to ask you this question before we get back to the Texas Tech game, and that is, you're up in northern Ohio. You got the big game today between Ohio State and Michigan. What are you thinking?
Ohio State has a hard time with Michigan, so don't be surprised. This is a big game for Michigan. They kind of been in the low line areas, like they're not getting all the hype in the press. So don't ever be surprised if Michigan pulls an upset. But I mean, Ohio State's got a great team. They're gonna go in there and do something. But I mean, Michigan's kind of been winning that battle at the end of the year. And, there's a lot of reasons why they're winning that battle at the end of the year. Ohio State, they were going to fire the coach the year before because he lost to Michigan, but they ended up winning the national title. So, I mean, be careful how you want to throw around the firing word. You know what I'm saying? So, I think, Ohio State's got something to prove today. They gotta get past Michigan, at Michigan, which that's not no easy task. And I think it's going to be more of a competitive game than probably most people think. Because one thing's for certain about both those clubs don't really care about the TV contract. They care about winning. So, and they do basically whatever they got to do to win. And the fact that they got, coffers full of money to pull in players, well, then, obviously there's a blueprint there. So obviously some of our we need to get some of that knowledge and enthusiasm and open it up down there in Morgantown.
Well, but going back to what you said about them.
Answering your question, who do I think is going to win? I think it's going to be a hard game. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. You're going back to your point about the media. we got 12 o'clock prime time, really in the afternoon game. I know 3:30 is considered the prime time, but yeah, to be able to get a 12 o'clock slot on ESPN is prime. But if you look at the Big 12 schedule today, you had 2 games last night. Utah played Kansas, took care of them. Arizona beat Arizona State. But look at the games today. You've got Iowa State against Oklahoma State. That's not going to make it. You got Colorado at Kansas State. That's not going to make it. You got Houston and Baylor. Not really. And then you've got UCF at BYU. So the Texas Tech West Virginia game is really the marquee game, at least from my perspective, on today's Big 12 calendar. And that leads me to the picks that we have for the game. And on Wednesday's show, Mickey, Greg, and I picked, and we all picked Texas Tech. Mickey 38-17, Greg 34-14. I picked 42-17, and Mike today picked WVU 31-28. Those of you who are watching out there, if you want to throw up your predictions, we'll as Mike is talking, we'll throw those up too. Obviously, our heart is with Mike's pick, but we pretty much clustered all together there, picking Texas Tech and pretty much going with Texas Tech's form of beating teams by 30 points, basically what that boils down to. But Mike, talk more about your pick and the game today.
Well, I mean, in the spirit of West Virginia Mountaineers and the fact that, we've had a pretty tough year, it's a transitional year at best, to say the least. And I just think that, they have a chance to come out there and just kind of just play without any real reason to not lose the game. Just go out there, let it all hang out, play as hard as you can play, see what type of team you have going into the new year, going into next season. And this is basically their bowl game. So this is what they get. This is the last print that they get to say, this was our first season with Coach Rodriguez, and this is what we did. And at the end of the year, we beat the number 5 team, and that'd be a whole lot to build on going into next season. And it would definitely help, get the coffers full of money so that we can, maybe, edge up our yearly premium. I really want to see, the only school I really care about is West Virginia. So I really want to see our school take young men, give them something that they can build off of. And not only that, I want to see our school be able to fund some form of state retirement to hold those players in place for 4 or 5 years and say, hey, guess what? You get this retirement when you're like 55 or 60, and because you played here and you stayed here. Because that's the biggest gift you can give somebody, especially when they're at that age. They won't realize that till they turn 55 or 60, that's a big deal. But someone needs to explain it to them. There's we have plenty of financial guys at West Virginia that played there. We got Matt Ratcher, you got Andre Johnson, you got Pat Marlette, and those are just the people I know. And I know there's many others at other different years that I played that are in that business. These are all people that, I would definitely, they should turn to them to let them help them understand finances, because they're certified and all that, all the stuff you're supposed to do. And they've survived a couple crashes and all that stuff throughout the market. So, it's better to be battle tested than not tested at all. Right. So, definitely that.
Well, what you bring up, I think, is something really important. And that is that, one way to win a race is to basically outdo others. Usually, though, the others, you've got to compete with them on their terms. So that would be just raise more money. That's the default option. Another option is to offer benefits that other institutions don't offer, that you offer first. And that's what you're proposing. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense to me. In fact, I was talking with Kathy Fair, my wife, and also with Greg the other night. about this Michigan thing where they won, that basketball tournament, and each of those players got 150,000 each. Well, that's to spend right now. And my guess is, unless the University of Michigan and others and their family and friends or whatever are advising them about how to invest that money, how to protect that money, the question becomes, how long will it take before that money is gone, or a good significant proportion of it?
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Did they just get that money like lately?
Yeah, they just this week because they won that tournament.
Okay, so here's the deal, Frank. So they get their money in November, okay? And by the end of the year, you got 1 month, right? But by the end of the year is 1 month, all right? About 1 month, I got this money, 150 grand. Well, now come April 15th
you got to pay.
Next year, all that 1099 tax money's due. So it's like no one's deferring my taxes for me. I'm going to be, there's so much that could be done with that money. Maybe they could have waited and got the money in January. You know what I'm saying? Just a little, give them a $5,000 stipend until January, and then all of a sudden let that tax kick in and then be able to spread that out a little bit. But no, here, go pay taxes. I mean, you don't make no money when you're paying taxes. You know what I'm saying? So,
no,
nothing
absolutely.
against it. I'm just saying, you get money at the end of a year. It's like, Lord have mercy. It's might as well just cut it in half. Just give them $75,000 and walk out the door. You might even owe a little more than that. So,
yeah,
depending on if you made more.
Yeah. Well, and I was just writing. I'm just writing about this in a book I'm writing about how important it is that what you're saying is, because some of the top tier programs, like let's say Duke, you just don't go to play basketball at Duke because they're known as a basketball. I mean, you become part of the Duke establishment, and people are looking out for you because you went to Duke. And the same thing applies to, say, Ivy League schools. You're part of that network. And what you're describing here, which I think makes a lot of sense, is for West Virginia to step up and become the same type of school, that you're not just looking for players to come in and win while they're there. You basically embrace those players, and you're basically engaging in behaviors on their behalf for the better interest, and that draws players.
Yeah, it's the next best thing, in my opinion. Because back in the day, when some coach walked in your house to ask your mom and dad, "I'm going to bring your son to my school," and they trusted it. You know what I'm saying? There was a trust that your parents were going to release their young man or young woman to the school, and then the school was going to do the right thing at the moment in time for that young person. But now we're trying to say, hey, we want to be that we want to be that coach. We want to be that coaching staff. We want to be here from the beginning until the end, because you know what? If you're once a Mountaineer, you're always a Mountaineer. I mean, it hasn't left my blood since I left there. You know what I'm saying? So these are just ways to improve that feeling. And as you improve that, the situation around the new situation, because this is a new situation for all, as you improve it, you build the fabric of all the team is interwoven throughout the whole country and around the world at this point, because now we're getting people from all over the place as well. So, that's just a wonderful, tight-knit, woven type of community, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree completely. And when I think of the leadership that we have in place in Morgantown, we could make that happen. You got a great AD and Ren Baker. Kevin Johnston is doing a great job with the varsity club. The kind of leadership for those two is really admirable. You got great coaches across the board. You look at the job that Kellogg's doing with the women's basketball team, and what Hodge has done stepping into a very difficult situation. When West Virginia got basically a right hook and a left hook at the end of last season with the situation with Indiana, losing our coach and then being slighted in the NCAA tournament. Hodge is well respected. You got Rich Rod. So you got all the pieces in place, I think, on the leadership side to make what you're talking about a reality. I agree 100%.
I mean,
Good
you're not,
thoughts.
listen, if you're not nothing, you're West Virginia strong. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes a lot to take all that and then still get back on and keep on rolling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's been West Virginia's mantra for a very long time.
That's right. Absolutely. Any scores that any of the folks watching? I see we have a number of folks watching that you want to put up, or any other comments. We're getting close to the end here, and we'll do that. So, any final comments from your side, Mike? I'll add mine, and then we'll see if other people comment, and then we'll bring the show to a close.
Yeah, like I said, today's our bowl game. It's the bowl game that we didn't get to, but this is a big deal for West Virginia. We're playing number 5. They're well-rounded. They're deep. They're great at every position, and this is a great test for all of our Mountaineer football players to take the challenge, go out there and play your heart out, see where the pieces fall at the end of the day, because just make sure you can look in the mirror. That's all. You play hard, you work hard, and where the pieces fall is where they fall. So I think West Virginia has a chance to win this game today, because I like the chances when our chances are the least. So we need to prevail and shake it up a little bit. Let number 5 fall, because we decided to have our bowl game and a victory today in Morgantown.
Yeah, last game for all those seniors, because so many of the players that were brought in through the portal are seniors, and so it's going to be the last time they're going to come out of the tunnel and play in Morgantown. And you're right. There is you and I both came from out of state, and even though we left after we did our academic work there, you just never leave Morgantown. It's always a part of you. And it would be a tremendous situation. And let me just say that we'll be back with you after the game, about 20 minutes later, with our post-game show. Mike will be back. Again, we're missing Greg today. Say hello to him. He had a family obligation, couldn't be with us. But Mike will be back for the post-game show. Please join us as we share our thoughts. And also, I wanted to mention those of you who may not be doing that, even though some will be obviously watching the post-game show, to put in a plug for our Wednesday show every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And we're going to have one of the most recognizable names in West Virginia football history, a guy by the name of Danny Buggs, incredible scat back, wide receiver, punt returner, kickoff returner, had a great pro career. Living in Georgia now, just elected into the Georgia Hall of Fame. Danny Buggs, who played in the 70s with Bobby Bowden, will be our guest. And in fact, I would say, Mike, I've talked with Danny, or Danny's talked with me about this. He has a lot of ideas and is working with an array of people, including Nick Saban, on college football reform. So for those people who are interested in ideas for reforming college football and getting it back to what it should be, or closer to what it should be, Danny will talk about that on Wednesday night. Just an incredible show. We're looking forward to that. So, Mike, I want to thank you for being here. We appreciate it always. You add an awful lot to the show. We want to thank all the folks out there who were watching the show. We appreciate that. You have plenty of options. And so to spend your time with us is something that we really, really do appreciate. So for Greg, who's not here today, unfortunately, for Mike and all of you watching, thank you so much. Let's go Mountaineers, and we'll be back with you at the end of the game, about 20 minutes later, with our post-game show. Take care, everyone.
Have a good